So today's video is going to be structured a bit differently from my usual content. The purpose of this video is to talk about Bloxburg being free and why a lot of people are talking about that topic at the moment. So I'm just going to be talking throughout this video, and then I'm also going to be showing some footage of me working on screen just so you have something to look at instead of a blank screen. But yeah, basically I'm going to be talking about Bloxburg being free. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to be talking about this, and also everything I'm going to address in this video so you can skip through to certain parts if you'd like, and just so you know what's going to go on in this video. Before you panic, don't worry, Bloxburg hasn't announced that they're suddenly becoming free or anything yet, but we are going to have a discussion about it because it has blown up over the past 24 hours. A lot of people are talking about this, and I've been getting some messages about people who kind of don't understand what's going on or are kind of a bit worried about it. So I just thought it was best that I do a video addressing kind of every section possible of what has been happening and why people are talking about this. First up, this is a list of everything I'm going to be mentioning today. It's going to go a lot deeper than this. This is just kind of like the title of each section. So I'm going to be talking about what is the free Bloxburg hashtag and who started it and why it blew up so quickly. Why does Bloxburg cost money in the first place to play? Have the developers told us it'll be free? If it does become free, will you get your money back? The discussion about it on Twitter, why people want it to be free. For example, some people want it so there's more views on Bloxburg content. Some people want it free because they can't buy it in the first place. And I'm also going to be talking about why people don't want it to be free. For example, exploiters, more new players, worries about lag. I'm going to go over all of the pros and cons that the community have asked me about, and I'm going to debunk some of these. And this will be quite a large section. I can't really put this under one title. There is going to be a lot of information in this section, so I suggest you watch all of that part because it goes quite deep into everything. I'm also going to address why people are so afraid of Bloxburg being free and how it's mainly because of a fear that has been built up by social media and the trends around it. Once again, I'll get more in depth on that later. I'm going to talk about why public servers are so quiet right now, why they can't make public servers larger, and last but not least, my opinion on the whole thing. Because my opinion has quite kind of changed a lot in the past couple of years around the subject of Bloxburg being free, so I think it'd be kind of interesting. But let's go back to the beginning. First of all, what is the free Bloxburg hashtag? The free Bloxburg hashtag is a hashtag that suddenly popped up last night on Twitter. It was started, from my knowledge, by ROBLOX, Tequila, and Simply Bubbly. At least they were the first people I saw to use it, and everyone else also said it was started by them. I might be wrong. Those three are YouTubers who make Bloxburg content. After that, and I mean within 10 minutes, the hashtag went insane and everyone started reposting it. It got on the trending page within, I'd say, 20 minutes of it being on Twitter. It went mental really quickly, and this caused more confusion because people didn't understand where it had just suddenly appeared from. They thought someone had kind of organized this whole thing for it to just explode at that time. They didn't. The reason why it suddenly blew up so quickly is because over the past year or so, especially with the new Bloxburg development team, there was a lot of conversation around it being free anyways. I saw a YouTuber called Cider. He's mentioned it recently a few times on his Twitter. Like, a lot of people have been randomly speaking about this anyway, so as soon as people saw the hashtag and they were kind of passionate about this previously, they'd already spoken about it, they jumped on it instantly. So they quickly, you know, retweeted it, tweeted it themselves as soon as they saw it. And because of this, you know, every single time someone did it, it just reached more people, meaning more people instantly, you know, they didn't even think, they just tweeted it again. So it blew up really quickly. And I was also really confused on where it came from, but that is pretty much the background around it. It happened last night. I'm filming this on the 13th of February. Pretty much all it was is people trying to get Bloxburg to become free. Which leads me to the next topic. Why does Bloxburg cost money in the first place? Now, Bloxburg began development in 2014, but then in August of 2016, it was released to be able to like buy and play. At this time, it was obviously in beta and you had to pay 25 Robux, just like how you have to pay 25 Robux still to this day to play it. But like I said, it was classed as in beta and it had beta in the game name, and this lasted until 2020. In August of 2020, I believe, which is exactly 4 years after the release, they silently took the beta out of the name, but they didn't make it free. It still remained at costing 25 Robux to play, and this at the time back then caused a lot of kind of conversation around it because people's expectations were that once Bloxburg was removed from beta, it would then be free to play, which happens with most games. Most games, when they're in a beta stage where the game's kind of just being made and it's not ready, will make it payable. So you can like buy it and play it, but it's not publicly released yet because it's still in beta. It's not the finished game. So when Bloxburg didn't make it free, but they took the beta word away, people were really confused and we never actually got a straight answer on why this was. From my knowledge, they never actually addressed this. People also thought that once Bloxburg reached version 1, you know how we have like version 0.12 at the moment, or version 0. 7, I don't know. It's basically the number of the updates. People thought once it hit 1 it would become free, but it never did. It went to 0.10 instead. People were so convinced that when it hit 0.9.9 it would go to 0.1, but it didn't. So there's been a few times where Bloxburg was expected to become free and it didn't, and we never got an explanation for this, and I think the reason was they just didn't want to. I think when Coptus started on the game, or Coeptus, people get so mad at me for saying his name wrong. I'm just gonna keep saying it Coptus because that's what I'm used to. I think at the start when Coptus was doing it, there was probably an expectation that once the game was in a stage that he considered finished, he would release it from beta and it wouldn't be, you know, it wouldn't cost money to play. Because of the change in development, and obviously as time goes on, I think your perception of things change. And just in general, I think he probably reached the stage where he just kind of, you know, liked it the way it was. It liked the fact that it was behind a paywall, there wasn't as much pressure, and Coptus wasn't working with a giant dev team at the time. For the first 4 years, or 6 years if you count from, you know, when it started in 2014, it was mainly just Coptus and then, you know, Froggy Hops and I think a few other developers. From my knowledge, they didn't have a massive dev team. So it was probably, you know, a lot easier to handle a game that was behind a paywall and had a smaller community. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a developer myself, but I do know from speaking to other developer friends that it's not as simple as just making it free. Also, that is the way they get paid. They get paid from the Robux that they make from the game. So the game passes and it being behind a paywall probably funded, you know, them to be able to spend as much time as they had on the game. There's a bunch of different reasons. I can't give you a solid answer because I'm not a dev myself, but it just didn't become free. But back to the point, at the beginning, it was in a beta stage. I remember from when I started playing in 2016, 2017, the game map was so much smaller. We didn't have nearly as much content, so back then it really was in a beta stage. And the game has really come a long way, which I think is why the conversation is happening now, because people don't understand why it's still behind a paywall. But who knows why it's remained this way for as long as it has. I feel like I went off on a bit of a rant in that point. But anyways, we are going to move on to what the devs have said, which I've kind of already covered. They haven't really said anything about it until now. And what I mean by this is last night the hashtag reached the developers, well, the community managers at least. So obviously we have Lil Marie and Bramp as the community managers. They both made a tweet about it. Lil Marie's was kind of just asking, you know, where this came from. Bramp's, he said something that people think is a hint towards it becoming free. I'll put the tweet on screen now. He basically said something about, you know, how stuff that the players are asking for is already planned. People think this is a hint to it being free. He did reply to tweets about it being free with the hashtag, so it is possible. But you know, once again, we've had a new entire dev team. The game literally got bought at the end of 2022, so things have been changing a lot, and it could be possible that, you know, it being free is something they're working towards. It would be quite realistic, but this is the only time they've semi-addressed it. We don't have solid proof that they're planning on it being free. It would make sense for it to be eventually, especially because, you know, once again, the game was in beta at one point, so it kind of seemed like it was planned to come out of beta and be free, but they haven't said much about it. And I think that's another reason why this is kind of blowing up so quickly, is because people are annoyed at the fact there isn't more conversation about it. Anyways, moving on from the whole, you know, why and what the devs have said and done, what I can say is that the community managers are really good at communicating with us. I think we're really lucky as a community that they respond as much as they do. I know looking at some other game communities in Roblox, they don't have this clear communication. I know some people think the devs could say more, but I think they're doing a great job, like how they are, if that makes sense. Moving on, so will we get our money back if Bloxburg does become free? And this is one of the most controversial points, because I do have to tell you, we pretty much have a straight answer to this, not because the devs have said it, but because it's kind of common sense. I will explain it, but you won't get your money back if Bloxburg becomes free. You won't get the 25 Robux back. And a lot of people's argument is, well, if it's becoming free and other people don't have to pay for it now, why can't I get my money back? Why did I have to pay for it? You paid for it to have early access. You paid for it to play before anyone else can play for free. The whole point of you paying for it is to be able to access the game all these years that you've had it before anyone else. For example, I bought Bloxburg at the end of 2016, in the same year it was first open to play. So I have been able to play Bloxburg for the last 8 years, it'll be this year. And compared to someone who hasn't bought it and hasn't been able to buy it, I've had that, you know, privilege for the past 8 years of being able to play a game because I paid for the access of it before people could play it for free. For example, I'm going to use 2 examples here as well. If you bought something from a shop and then a few months later or something, you saw the same item but it was reduced for half price, you wouldn't go and ask for the money back, you know, the extra money you spent on it, with the excuse, well, now it's cheaper and I had to pay more, so why don't I get the money back? So it's cheaper for me as well, because you bought it weeks ago, if that makes sense. Same with, for example, fast passes at theme parks. You paid extra to be able to get on the roller coaster before everyone else. You got on the ride before everyone else, and then everyone else suddenly sat down because it was finally their turn. You wouldn't then say, well, I want my money back for the fast pass because everyone else is here now. It doesn't work like that. You paid for it to be able to have it before everyone, so you won't get your money back. Also, it wouldn't be physically possible because, like I said, this is paying for the game to be able to be in development. This is the money that the devs are earning from it. So obviously it's going to be spent on development, it's going to be spent on their lives, this is their income. Like, the money doesn't just, you know, sit in a Roblox account and then they're like, oh, well, it's free now, I've got to give it all back. You won't get your money back. And some people are upset over that fact, but you really shouldn't be. You paid for it in the first place to be able to access it before everyone else. I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to explain that part a little bit because that is something I see a lot with people getting upset with. The next is, what is Twitter saying about it? So the main point people keep seeing about people on Twitter talking about it is about content creators and how it's going to benefit them from it being free. And a lot of people think this is the only reason people want it to be free and are upset by that. They think it's just content creators. More specifically, people have been saying basically content creators have been discussing how it will boost their videos because there'll be a larger community, which is true. If there is more people playing Bloxburg, there's going to be more people that are going to watch Bloxburg YouTube videos or TikToks or something like that. And it will probably give people more views, but that's not the only reason people want it to be free. And there's quite a few reasons that we'll go into later, but it makes sense that people are talking about that because technically it makes sense that the views will be boosted. Some people are upset because they think it's YouTubers that are only making these videos for the money, and that's the only thing they're focusing on, and that's why they want more views. They're kind of saying, okay, these people only want more views because it'll give them more money. And whilst it probably will, it's not the main reason YouTubers are wanting it to be free for the views. More views kind of brings, like, you know, more engagement. It means your community will be more active and bigger. It means YouTubers can do more fun things like events. They can talk to more people. It kind of goes a bit more deeper than just the money side of it. Personally, I would be doing YouTube, and I will talk about this at the end. I would be doing Bloxburg videos no matter if I got paid for it or not. So that is not like my main focal point, and I do understand content creators talking about it because I am really passionate about Bloxburg. I have loved this game for years, and no matter what, I would always make videos on it. I don't need to be paid to do so. I don't even need loads of views. It's just something I enjoy. But having the ability to have a larger community and be able to like do more fun things with people, more events, more interactive live streams, they're not talking about it just for the money. It just means the community is going to be a lot more fun and engaging. There's a large part of the Bloxburg community who left a few years ago. Like, it kind of got really popular in 2020 once lockdowns were lifted and more people weren't just sat at home. A lot of communities, like active members, left. So a lot of YouTubers who have been doing this for a while, a lot of their subscribers aren't active anymore. So a lot of it is just about reviving their community. It's not a bad thing. Even the money part of it's not a bad thing. Some people, this is their job, so it makes sense for them to kind of be considering that, and I promise you they're not being selfish. It can just go quite deep. Like, Bloxburg being free would bring a lot more activity to the game. So please don't take it to heart if you see, you know, content creators talking about that. They don't mean it in a bad way. It's just good for everyone. Like, being able to be a YouTuber and have more people around to do stuff with is great, and it's not just about the money, if that makes sense. But yeah, on Twitter, the main reasons they want it to be free is just for the engagement, for the player base. They want it to kind of revive the game. There's a lot of reasons, which is going to lead us into our next category of why people want it to be free, why people don't want it to be free, but we're going to start with why people want it to be free. So first off, the content creation thing. Like I just said, it will bring a lot more content creation to the game. It'll bring more viewers, stuff like that. We've just went over that. I won't bore you with it again. The largest reason, of course, is to boost the player count. If it's free, it means more people have access to it. It means Bloxburg's way more popular. There's more players, you know, there's more stuff going on. The servers are more lively, which is a huge reason. I'm going to talk about it after this whole section, but a lot of people have been discussing that the servers seem really quiet. Public servers are really quiet, and they've kind of considered, is the game dying? So a lot of people want it to be free because it means the player count's going to get bigger. There's going to be more people in the servers, especially more talkative ones, because if they're new to the game, they won't just be sat there building. They'll, you know, they'll be looking around the map, they'll be talking to people, trying to figure things out. I think it would be really lovely to see loads of new players in public servers, so that is a reason a lot of people want it to be. By the way, I probably should should have said at the start, I did ask a bunch of people about this. I asked my Discord server to give me their kind of thoughts and ideas. I talked about it on Twitter. So I have actually went and got the community's opinions, which I'm kind of including in this. Next, it will be more accessible to people and mainstream. If it's free, it means every single person on the platform can play it. And it being behind a paywall has kind of had some issues in the past. For example, there is the RB battles where Bloxburg was involved, but they couldn't do things like have badges or have necessary parts of the RB battle game because not everyone could play Bloxburg. So if they made it that you needed to play Bloxburg to do something for RB battles, it wouldn't be fair on people. If Bloxburg was free, it would mean they'd have a lot more opportunity to kind of be involved in the Roblox community as a whole. It means if there's things like RB battles or for example the old Roblox egg hunts where you'd have to go into different games to get eggs, they could be involved in stuff similar to that because it means everyone can play it, it's fair, and they can take part in things. It'd be more mainstream. We'd have more people making content on it that aren't strictly Bloxburg YouTubers, just Roblox YouTubers in general. Like, we'd kind of be a lot more part of the Roblox community as a whole if it was free because we'd be a lot more attached to everyone else because everyone could play with us, if that makes sense. The next reason, and this is personally the most important reason to me, is that people that can't afford Robux or have access to Robux can now buy the game, especially younger children. As a content creator myself, I have a really young fan base, and a lot of people are arguing that Robux, 25 Robux is like 30 cents or something, that it's not a lot of money. But one, a lot of people don't have that money to spare on game currency. Also, you can't just buy 25 Robux, you have to buy Robux packs. I think the cheapest one was around £1, like the 99 Robux one, but I think for a lot of people they can't buy that one anymore. Roblox kind of removed it, so the cheapest one after that is like £5 or $5. I'm English, so obviously I don't know the like currency translations, but they can't just buy 25 Robux. It would cost them more than that just to be able to access this one game, and a lot of people, they don't have money to spare on a virtual game, so they're not going to be able to access the game. And like I said, kids don't really have their own money. A lot of parents don't want their kids to spend money online. I remember back when I wanted Bloxburg before I'd bought it, I had never bought Roblox before, and we had to, me and my siblings actually had to like beg and try so hard to get Robux, which we eventually did, just to buy Bloxburg. A lot of parents don't want their kids to be spending money online, which, you know, which does make sense. Going back to my viewer base, how young they are, I have a really large chunk of viewers who don't even own Bloxburg, but they still watch my videos because they really want it, and Bloxburg's something they're really interested in playing, but they're not allowed to buy Robux, or they can't have access to Robux, so they have no choice but to just watch videos. They can't play it themselves. So if the game was free, it would mean, you know, some of my viewers, I'm guessing a lot of other channels viewers, would finally be able to play and take part in what they've been watching. People who don't have Robux available to them would finally have access to the game. Also, it means people who maybe do have Robux will play the game. Just because they have Robux doesn't mean they want to waste it on a game access. There's loads of people who may have loads of Robux, but they're gonna look at it, see it costs money, and because they can't, you know, just quickly play it and test it out and see if they like it, they're not gonna be interested. Because what if you spend your Robux on a game that you don't even like? So by it being free, a lot more people will just happen to try it out that one time and probably really enjoy it. So I think that's the most important part for me, is that it's giving everyone access who may not be able to access it. And I think people need to stop saying, oh, it's only 25 Robux, because that's not how it works for everyone. Next is that it is possible that we could have more updates. Now, I don't know how I feel about this one. It's something someone talked to me about, how we could have more updates because there's more of a demand for it. If there's a larger player base, that's going to be more people wanting updates, which could be a good thing. I don't know about that point though. I think, you know, we have updates once a month, which is more than a lot of games get in the first place. But I just wanted to include that one. And here's another one someone told me about, is that the Bloxburg game is probably more likely to make money. Like I said, there's people who have Robux who may not just want to buy it to try it out, but if they do try it out once it's free, it means they might get really hooked on it, and you know, they might sit there and buy all the game passes. It's more money for the devs. It kind of makes sense, you know. Just because it's becoming free doesn't mean they're gonna lose out on income, because there's a bunch of things in games that make income. There's loads of games that make millions of dollars a year and they're not paid access. So that's just a bit about the reasons why people want it to be free, and now we are gonna go into why people don't want it to be free, which I feel like this is kind of more intense, but it's all kind of surrounded around the same reasons. Now, the biggest reason people don't want it to be free is exploiters and rule breakers and people making alt accounts, and I'm gonna go over this. Now, we already have exploiters in Bloxburg. It's a lot less now because as a whole, the platform of Roblox, they're tackling exploiters, they're making it harder to exploit. I don't know the exact kind of information about what I'm about to say, but there was a big exploiting website or something that Roblox got taken down and is now working with the people who ran it to tackle exploiting on Roblox. So in general, there's a lot less exploiting than usual, but even being paid means we have exploiters. Like, we already have them. So people saying they don't want it to be free because of the increase of exploiters, there's probably going to be the same amount. For example, if Bloxburg was made free and the player count doubled, that means the amount of exploiters would double, but it would be at the same rate as normal players who don't exploit. So it's very unlikely that you're going to start seeing people in servers exploiting all the time, because one, there'd be just as many normal players, and two, Roblox is tackling exploiting, so you're seeing it less and less anyways. Yes, I do agree that if it's free, people can make more alt accounts and rule break, but games do have the ability to IP ban people and like permanently ban people so that even if they make new accounts, they can't play. Roblox is trying to tackle exploiting, so I do understand the concern, but people are hyping it up way too much, way more than it should be. The game isn't going to go free and suddenly it's a war zone. That is not going to happen. Exploiters aren't a big issue like what you're expecting it to be. Like, for example, there's loads of free games that don't have a massive exploiting issue. There's some games that get more kind of targeted by exploiters than others, and that's because of the kind of structure of the game. It's making it easier to exploit. I know there is ways that you can kind of deter exploiting in games. Kind of complicated. Once again, I'm not a dev. There isn't just going to be a ton of exploiters as soon as they make it free. There may be a bit more, but once again, Roblox is trying to fix that issue for every game, not just Bloxburg, and people exploit even when it's paid. It's not going to be something you're ever going to be able to stop no matter what game you're playing. Now, the second reason people don't want it to be free is because of new players, or as some people have decided to refer to it, noobs. I get a lot of comments when I'm talking about this about how, oh, I don't want it to be free because, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to board up my Bloxburg house. There's going to be so many new players everywhere. They're going to be ruining it. It's going to be chaos. And people like to refer to them as Adopt Me players as well. Adopt Me has got quite a bad reputation in the Roblox community for having just younger players that some older players might find a tad annoying. And this point I think is incredibly unfair. First of all, there is a ton of Adopt Me players who play Bloxburg, and this links me to what I was saying earlier about the impact social media has had on this, because there has been a trend that resurfaces every kind of year or so, and it's basically people being like, oh, board up your Bloxburg house windows, like this is what I'm gonna do if Bloxburg becomes free, and it's like videos of them boarding up their Bloxburg house and doing a bunch of stuff, basically putting the fear in place of people who are watching that, being like, oh, if Bloxburg is free, it's a bad thing. You're gonna have to prepare. You're gonna have to block up your plots for these new players because these new players are gonna be bad. And the players they're talking about, going past the exploiter point, we're just focusing on the new players and the noobs, as I like to say it here. They're just automatically, you know, telling people that the new players are gonna be bad. And that is so far from the point. Like, if Bloxburg becomes free, the people that will now be playing it are people that couldn't afford the Robux in the first place. So it's kind of like they're saying that people who couldn't have the 25 Robux aren't gonna be good players, which doesn't make any sense. There's a huge amount of people who don't want the game to be free, and the reason for this is just because they've seen other people not want it to be free, because they've seen the videos of people kind of acting like it would be the end of the world and it would just cause absolute chaos. But if you really sit and think about it, what could these players do that would be so bad? At the end of the day, they're just like you and me. They're just players, and just because they didn't have the Robux to play before it was free doesn't mean they're awful people and it's gonna all burn into flames. Once again, the Adopt Me thing, loads of Adopt Me players play Bloxburg. There's already a bunch of toxic players who play Bloxburg because toxic players play every game. It's not down to how much Robux they have. And I think we need to get this straight right now, that if Bloxburg does become free, you do not go and sit in public servers and bully people who are new to the game. They are not bad people. Most of them will just be young children. And yes, they will be noobs and new players at Bloxburg because they've never played it before, but that is not a bad thing. You were at one point, you were a new player to the game, and I just really wanted to emphasize in this video that if it does become free, I completely do not condone that type of behavior. If you're in my community and you find it okay to kind of pick on new players, I completely am against that. So I think it's really unfair for people to kind of have the reason of it not becoming free just because they don't like the players, when once again, going back to, you know, oh, the Brookhaven and Adopt Me players, they all play Bloxburg anyways. Well, a lot of them do. You can't kind of focus it down to one game's community, when that game's community, a lot of them will play this game anyways. All it is kind of picking on maybe younger children who have not got Robux that will have Robux, and the noobs are not someone I want people to be picking on. I just wanted to get that one straight. This is kind of more of a lecture. Do not do that. They're just kids. They're just Roblox players, and if it does become free, they'll just be exploring a new game. There's nothing wrong with them. None of them are bad people, and you don't have to board up your Bloxburg, you know, Bloxburg windows. If you had that concern over players, then you would have been boarding up your Bloxburg house anyways, because, you know, what if someone you thought was like that suddenly got Robux for Christmas and bought Bloxburg? They're in the game now. Like, what are you trying to protect yourself against? They're just Roblox players. If it is exploiters or people that have come to ruin the game, which they can do anyway, no matter if it's paid access or not, then you do have a right to be upset with that because it is annoying. But once again, it's not just any player's fault, if that makes sense. Anyways, the next point that people are concerned about is server lag, and I do understand the worry of that. People are like, you know, well, if there's more players, they're gonna make the servers lag, and I do just want to say that that's pretty much not possible. Now, at the end of the video, well, after this section, I will talk about, you know, why public servers are quiet, like I said, and why they can't make public servers player count bigger. But the reason there won't be any server lag if Bloxburg is free is because there is a player cap in place already. So, as you know, Bloxburg's public servers have a player cap of 12 players, and that means there is 12 plots. And the reason why there is a cap of 12 players is to prevent the lag in the first place. So if Bloxburg goes free, there won't suddenly be like 20 players in one public server. It will only ever be 12. And this is because that is what the devs think is an appropriate amount to stop the lag. So you know your Bloxburg plot, how it has plot data, and once that hits 100, which means you place down like a bunch of stuff, you can't place down anymore. And this is because the more you place down on a plot, the laggier it is. So if all 12 players in a Bloxburg public server had a plot on 100%, that would be the max. That would be the complete limit for the entire server, and that would be the laggiest it could get. Now, we already do have some issues with lag if people are on mobile devices, for example. When people have all these massive plots spawned in, it does get a tad laggy for some players, but because it's capped at 12, it will never go beyond that. So even if the game was free to play, just because loads and loads more players played it doesn't mean that it's going to get laggier, because each individual server can only have 12 players. I mean, the lag count is always going to stay at the limit it's meant to make it playable. In terms of Roblox as a whole, Roblox can get very laggy if there's a lot of players. I'm talking like a count over 1 million, because sometimes Roblox servers may not be able to handle it. I don't even know if this is a fact, but I do know when Adopt Me or Brookhaven has like large events, and Bloxfruits I think it is, and their count goes over 1 million, or I think it was 2 million once, Roblox does experience some issues. But that is not because of the game itself. Like, for example, it's not Adopt Me's fault, it is Roblox's fault, because Roblox's servers can't handle that many people. It's not because of the individual game servers. So even if Bloxburg was free, the lag wouldn't be an issue, because Bloxburg has player caps on their public servers, and on their private servers you can only have 12 plots max, and then you have to just spawn in with your character and no plot, because they're preventing lag. So you don't need to worry about that, it wouldn't happen. The next point is beggars. People are worried that once Bloxburg becomes free, there's going to be an increase in people begging for money, and yeah, you know what, there might be. I feel like there has been a decrease in people begging for money because people are kind of so advanced in the game now. So when there's a bunch of new players who don't have much money, there may be a few more people begging. It may be slightly annoying, but I don't think this is cause for concern, because I feel like this happens in every game anyway. I mean, there's still people who beg for money in Bloxburg, there's people who beg for free pets in Adopt Me. It's always going to be an issue whether a game is paid access or not. It's just something some people do. So I understand your concern for that one as well, but it's not really going to be an issue majorly. You can just leave a server if someone's bothering you, same as you do now when it's paid access. And those are kind of the most popular concerns. I have a few more on the list I'm going to address, but those are what people are most concerned about: exploiters and new players and beggars and stuff like that. The next one I saw that someone told me is that the gameplay quality would drop, and this one is absolutely not true. Just because there's more players does not mean Bloxburg's standard or quality is going to drop at all. In fact, it might get better because there's a larger demand for it, like we were talking about earlier. The next is an issue kind of targeted more towards content creators, is that the market will be saturated in terms of there will be a lot more YouTubers that are suddenly making Bloxburg content, and you won't get as many views because people would choose to watch someone else. And it is possible that there will be a massive increase in Bloxburg content creators, but it isn't a reason for games to like stay private, if that makes sense, and keep the community small. Next one is kind of an interesting one, that they might have to hire more staff to run Bloxburg, and I'm not too sure if this is a pro or a con. I feel like you could say it's a con because obviously they'd have to pay an employee, but if the game is growing that much to the extent where they need more employees, then they will probably be able to afford that anyways, because their company is growing with the game, so it kind of cancels each other out. They may need more employees like community managers, because if there's more players, then there is more people who will be asking questions and needing responses, which is reasonable. But once again, again, if there's that many more players that are asking that many more questions, then it means the game is doing extremely well and they can probably afford to hire new people. So in terms of the Bloxburg company itself, I don't think you have anything to worry about, because they're either going to have enough players that they're making enough money to hire new people, or they're not going to need the extra people because they don't have that many extra players, if that makes sense. So I don't think there is ever going to be a point in time where Bloxburg being free would be detrimental to the Bloxburg company, because it will grow with the game's growth. It will grow kind of equally. They will only hire new people if they have the need to. I also saw someone talking about that if there's new people, people are going to be finding more and more bugs. But if anything, this is a good thing, because it means it's, you know, the Bloxburg team can make sure it runs more smoothly. But it won't mean that there's going to be more bugs. It just means there's going to be more people finding the same bugs that are already there. And I think that's everything. Like, the main concern players have is the exploiters and the new players. Once again, the exploiting thing is something that is actively dealt with by Roblox as a platform and isn't something that needs to be a major concern. And the new players thing, I've already discussed that one. You need to make sure you're just being kind to these people. They're just new to a game. Like, games have come out of beta loads and loads of times before this, and that has not really ever been, like, there's never been a downfall of a game just because it's become free. It just means more people, and there's already people who may exploit in Bloxburg. There's already people who may be toxic or unkind, and there's also people who are lovely in Bloxburg, obviously. And in terms of the players who may play once it's free, there's going to be a bunch of lovely ones, and there may be a bunch of ones who aren't so lovely. It's just people in general. It has nothing to do with the game's access. I think that's everything for pros and cons. It can get a bit confusing because a lot of people just have the same kind of feelings about it. There's kind of a big divide. If there's anything I've missed out, I will talk about it in the comments. I will reply to your comments. I will address anything really important on the pinned comment. Okay, so I actually took a break from filming what I've just filmed until now, and I'm going to go over a few more points because I was talking about it in my Discord server, and I just want to make sure I explained everything properly, because I was talking to someone in there and I've just basically responded a bunch of their concerns of it being free. So I just want to add that in here quickly as a little kind of bonus, more of an explanation, because I feel like the reasons people don't want it to be free, there's so much to unpack with it. One of them is the bug reports, but like I said, more bug reports and like more people finding bugs is a good thing, because there's only so many bugs in the game, and it just means people are going to be reporting on the same thing or discovering very hidden bugs, and all it's going to mean is that these are going to be dealt with faster because there's more people saying it. One of the concerns was that the house reports that you can do in Bloxburg already take months to get back to, and that if there's more players, there's going to be more of a demand on that. And we did talk about already that if they need more staff, they will be able to hire more staff. But I do understand this concern because there is a lot of people who will make inappropriate builds, and it should be being dealt with quicker. And I haven't really experienced the house report thing, but apparently they're kind of slow to respond to those, but it doesn't majorly affect the gameplay. I understand the dev team have kind of more like things that have a higher concern, but that may be a slight issue. We may need, you know, to talk about maybe house reports need more of a priority, because inappropriate builds are a bad thing and it could put more strain on it if there was more players. So I do understand this point. The next one about needing more staff, like I said, they can easily hire it with the income. If the game grows, it means the income grows, and it means they have more resources to be able to hire more people to help with it. So that is not a major concern. The exploiter thing, once again, there's already exploiters in the game, but there's not many anymore. Roblox are actively dealing with that as a thing. And to be honest, a lot of Bloxburg exploiters aren't exactly harmful. They're not ruining anyone else's experiences. They're just kind of elevating their own. So a lot of them, they exploit to get more money in the game or houses. And yes, it is annoying, but it's not as bad as some games where people exploit directly to ruin other people's fun, which I think is quite good. And once again, exploiting, it's something being actively dealt with. I feel like I've said that so many times now. Next, people are concerned about, you know, people can just make new accounts. And I talked about this in terms of people making accounts to avoid kind of bans from the game and like being able to exploit, but this one was about people making accounts to then play Bloxburg, delete their house, get money from deleting the house, and just go and give it to their main account straight away and repeating the process, basically to get money without having to work. And whilst yes, that is a possibility, you can also do that in loads of other games. I used to do that in Row Citizens when I was younger. I made so many Roblox accounts to just give myself the money that you'd start with, but this is very time consuming, like having to log out and make a new account and do it over and over again. It's not effective. It's very time consuming and you get bored pretty quickly, and the turnover isn't even great. If you did this in Bloxburg, including the 7k that you start with, and you sold the house, you probably get max about 25k to go back and then give yourself. And we have a donate limit, so if once you hit 50k, or it's even lower if you don't have premium, once you hit that, you can't donate yourself any more money. So you'd be able to do that like twice a day and you can just get more money working. So that is honestly, it won't even affect it. Like, yeah, people could do that, but it's barely gonna do anything. And then another concern that we talked about in my Discord server was the lag in the data, but of course I already addressed that, it would be pretty much impossible for it to impact the game's lag. Another point people are saying is that even if it was free, people would then not be able to access a lot of features because they would still cost money for the game passes. It's a very valid point. Even if it was free, people will then might play and then get annoyed that they can't have the game passes because they cost Robux if they can't access Robux. Once again, there is a large portion of people who will have Robux and just don't want to waste on bloxburg, but if it's free and they like it, they will then buy game passes. But for people who can't, it will always be frustrating, but honestly, it's a lot better than them just not being able to play at all. Like, you can still do a lot without the game passes, you can still build houses. I do think it would be good for them to add more features. I really think that if they were to kind of move game passes around, like for example, make it so advanced placing is free and you can have 2 floors for free, but you'd have to pay for more, would be good, just to make it so basic players have a bit more. But it would be difficult because you'd have the same argument as earlier where people will be like, well, I bought the advanced placing game pass, or can I get my money back? So maybe not the advanced placing, because you can do a lot without advanced placing. As frustrating as it is once you get into bloxburg more, you can still do stuff without it. So I do think maybe making it so 2 floors is free and it's a few more free features would be good if the game went public, just to kind of ease that frustration a little bit and make it so people can still build quite a bit before having to buy game passes. But the game pass thing is complicated because once again, if you change the game passes, people who bought them would be annoyed because they spent money on them. It's difficult. Also, I just got a message on Twitter from someone us talking about this, and their opinion is that the map kind of is a bit more outdated in that if they went free, they would probably need to revamp it. I personally don't agree. I think they're revamping it very slowly, like these buildings, for example, you know, like the burger store and the gym, they're being revamped. I think it's great. I really heavily disagree with them revamping the entire map at once. For example, the game Row Citizens, they revamped the entire game. It looks completely different and it made a lot of players just not want to play it anymore, including me. I despise when games just do a complete revamp and make it different. Bloxburg is the best game for not doing this, so Bloxburg have done a really good job of developing the game, developing the buildings, changing things, all while keeping bloxburg, which is great, and I think they're going to continue doing that. Game development does take a while. They're working with quite an old game. It goes a lot deeper than them just like, oh, I want to change the building and make it look like this. They have to make sure it fits. The coding fits with all the other coding. There's no bugs. Like, there's a lot of work that goes into this. I know we get an update once a month and some people don't think that's enough, but if you look into kind of how long this stuff takes, it is so much more complicated than what you guys think it is. So I think they're doing a great job, but I do think, of course, you know, maybe a few more things need to be added before it's free. And a full map revamp, I don't think is one of them. They weren't saying this on Twitter, by the way. I'm kind of like running with the point a bit more. They were just talking about it. Maybe we need to add more features or have a major revamp. And major revamp, I think they mean just have more of a bigger update, not change the entire thing. It's just something I wanted to mention. So that is pretty much everything. It's pretty much the same things we talked about. I think there was a few extra points. I just want to really make sure I include literally everything in here as much as possible. So we're going to move on to my final points, which is why public servers are so quiet at the moment and why can't they make them bigger. And then after that, I'm going to give you my opinion on this whole thing. Finally, this video is going to be so long. So public servers at the moment have gotten to the point where people are complaining about them being very quiet. Now, I don't mean the player count. The player count is still relatively high, but if you go into public servers, nobody's really role playing. People are either working in silence or they're in build mode in silence. Now, I do have to say there is still role playing and people being active in public servers, but it's not as visible or as common. And the reason for this mainly is kind of a few things. It's mainly neighborhoods. So another few things though is people will play in voice calls. So you may be in a public server and people are all quiet, but in reality they're talking to each other over the phone. People are playing together as friends. There's more people now who have Discord who will voice call each other. There's a lot of younger people who will, you know, voice call on Snapchat or FaceTime and play Roblox together. So just because you don't see anything in chat doesn't mean people aren't interacting. So that's just a small point, but I do understand there has been a decrease in like activity of people playing together in public servers. And once again, the reason for this is neighborhoods. And what I mean by this is if people want to roleplay now, people want to do it on a larger scale. So of course the public server cap is 12. And if you join with your friends, those 12 people aren't all going to be you and your friends unless you manage to find an empty server. It's going to be you or maybe 2 or 3 friends, and then the rest is going to be other people because you can only fit 12 players in. So it's mostly going to be other people. And because of this, once neighborhoods were around, more people started playing in neighborhoods because it meant they could fit more of their friends in there. And it also meant they could do role plays on like a huge bigger scale. So neighborhoods were added in I think 2019 or 2020 or 2018. Honestly, I can't even remember, but I started using them in 2020 mainly. And the reason I started using them mainly in 2020, even if if they were added before that, it's because that's when I started playing with more people. So we play in private servers just so it could just be our friends and we could fit more people in. So that is the reason a lot of people aren't active in public ones, is because the people who are playing with others are playing in neighborhoods. And even if they don't kind of have a friend group to play, there's a lot of people who will promote their neighborhoods on things like TikTok or YouTube and be like, if you want to roleplay, you can come to this one because there's always a bunch of people here. So if you kind of look into it more, you will find that all these players who aren't roleplaying in public servers anymore are hidden in popular neighborhoods all roleplaying together, because they could have like 75 people there. There's these things called multi-fam roleplays, which one of my staff team informed me about, and that basically means it's like multiple Bloxburg roleplay families that all play together in these big servers. So whilst public servers might be very quiet, in private in these neighborhoods everyone is roleplaying all the time. The game is not dead, it's just very hidden. And if you're building, you don't really have the need to be in a neighborhood in a private server just to build, unless you really want to be by yourself. So all the builders, they just stay in public servers because they don't have the need to be around a bunch of other people, because they're not really playing, they're just building. And yes, it does kind of suck that public servers are a bit more quiet. I think it would be great if they implemented something where they had kind of public neighborhoods. So what I mean by this is bigger servers like neighborhoods that are kind of easily accessible for people who want to roleplay. Maybe a tab where you can, you know, click I want to like see a list of big roleplaying neighborhoods. And I don't even mean people owning them, because when you do this, you do have the big issue that people could be using these neighborhoods for bad things. If you have like one person promoting their neighborhood directly onto Bloxburg, the Bloxburg team don't know what that person is capable of, whether they have good intentions. Kind of similar to the Meep City party feature, if you let people just display their neighborhoods like that, it can cause a lot of negative issues. But I mean, it would be good if maybe Bloxburg had a section where it's like Bloxburg servers that just happen to be larger so people can roleplay. There'll only ever be 12 plots because that is the limit before it gets laggy, like we discussed. But it would be maybe good to look at making it more accessible for people to be in active servers that roleplay, because that's pretty much where the divide has come from. It's people who want to play together migrating to a place where they can have more people to play together, and then all the people who don't have the need to be around people like builders just stick in public servers. Talking about why they can't make servers bigger, we already discussed this, is because of the data. If they made public servers bigger, as in more plots, it would be ridiculous. Like the lag would be too much to handle and it would just ruin the experience for a lot of people. And they can't make it so public servers have more players in the same amount of plots like neighborhoods. For example, if they made public servers allow 50 players but only 12 plots, it would be frustrating for people because you'd be joining servers over and over again, but every server you go into, all the plots are taken. It would be frustrating. It wouldn't really work. So I hope that makes sense. Like, the server thing is in place for a reason, and I understand people hate public servers being quiet, but it's the players doing it, you know? They're just kind of naturally migrating to other areas, and it does make sense. But once again, like I said, maybe it would be good to look at a way that we can meet in the middle and we can have it so role-playing servers are more easily accessible for people. My opinion on Bloxburg becoming free. I used to think that it shouldn't because I was kind of in with the, oh, people will exploit, people will ruin it. But as I've kind of grown older and I looked into it more and I've become a content creator, I think that is not a concern. I am for it being free because I don't think it's that big of a difference. It will boost a player count, it will have some good points, it might have some bad points, but it's not a big, massive deal like people are saying it is. I think everyone needs to chill out a bit. I think it would be a good thing, a good development, and I also think the dev team will do it at a time that's right if they do go through with it. I completely trust the team with Bloxburg. They're doing a great job already, and I think if they're at the stage where they think it's the right thing to do, they will do it. They will do it when it makes sense to do it and it's a good thing to do. Everyone's always gonna have like opinions about this. No one's ever gonna like completely agree about this ever. Like, you're always gonna meet people who disagree, and that is normal with every single point in life. Everyone's always just gonna have a different opinion, but I do think I'm okay with it being free now. And I think a lot of the reasons people don't want it to be free is just because they have been kind of not scared into it, but influenced negatively by people making jokes about it and stuff like that. Like, it's not as bad as people are talking about, basically. In terms of the whole YouTube thing, I think as a YouTuber, I have to talk about that. Like, oh my gosh, it's gonna boost my content if it's free. I don't know if it will. I am at this stage now where this will become my job, and it is important that I grow. Like I said earlier, even if it wasn't, I would still be doing this. I mean, I did it without it being my job for years and years, and it's just something I love doing. So no matter where I was in life, no matter if YouTube didn't pay you or anything, I would still be doing this because I love it. Like, the views views and the money is not a big concern for me at all, because I just love doing this so much. But I am very excited at the thought of there being more people in the community to take part in the events, not just my events, but the Bloxburg events in general. Like, the elf hunt is already like so exciting, and we do have a large amount of players in the game that they don't play Bloxburg all year and they come back for the elf hunt. So having loads of people involved with that would be so fun. And that's kind of it. Like, I feel like I've kind of already said my opinion. Like, I'm okay with it. I'm not heavily kind of like serious about it. I never am with this stuff. I kind of sit back and observe everything quite a lot, but I did want to make a video for this just because I feel like there is so much kind of, not misinformation, but like such a negative impact being pushed on people towards Bloxburg being free, and this has been going on for years. Also, talking about the player thing, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want it to be free because then this type of player will join, like Slenders or Barbs. But I hate to break it to you, there is already an insane amount of those players that play. A lot of people are doing this based on their avatars, so you know, like the Slenders type of avatar, the Barbs type of avatar, the Adopt Me player avatar. But at the end of the day, these people only have those avatars because they have Robux, meaning they can afford to buy Bloxburg, meaning they're already in the game. Like, these people already play. You can't just say that the reason you don't want it to be free is because this type of player is in the game, when if their avatar looks like that, they're probably already here because they have Robux. Some groups of people on Roblox have a negative kind of reputation. In my opinion, I treat everyone the same. I don't care what people's avatars look like. Any type of person can be a nice person or a not so nice person, and I just don't agree with this whole kind of separating the groups of Roblox people and kind of claiming these ones are bad and we can't let them in Bloxburg, because they're like, there's Bloxburg players who are like every single type of style on the game you can imagine. So it's like, you can't physically say that because it doesn't make sense because they're already here for the most part. But that is it, I think. This video has been extremely long, and if you have stuck to the end, then I salute you. I know some people actually really enjoy when I do long videos because they just sit and listen to it like a podcast. But that is my take on the entire thing, if you can call it a take. I feel like I've just been reporting what other people are saying, and that is kind of it. I'm gonna end this now because I don't want to have to edit anymore. But I love you all so much, glossettes. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if I've missed anything. I will include anything that I feel like I need to address on the pinned comment, and I will see you all next time. XOXO, Glossy Girl. Also, if you heard an annoying noise, I feel like my mic wire has been hitting against my mic stand that entire time. Oh god, okay, I'm gonna go edit this. Bye.